one-timer. Score! Oh, it's over. It's over. They score!
That's game. Oh my goodness.
They score. Roll the highlight reel. What a ripper. Top Jetta. Spread it on.
And welcome to episode 3 of HNLive today. I'm Sean Mullen, and a double whammy for me today. One, our usual co-host Dave can't be with us. He's on the road, and congrats to Dave on this. He's on the road with the Edmonton Oil Kings broadcasting their games. So what happens? They send a replacement who's got a Calgary Flames banner hanging on his picture. I mean, Chris Colwell joining us here. You're starting this on the worst possible note.
You see, as a Flames fan, I think it's the best possible note. It's the best memory for Flames fans. I mean, there's not a lot of Flames fans anymore compared to Oilers fans. Everybody loves McDavid. But the Flames fans that are born like the last 20 years don't remember this, that 89 Cup run for the Flames. Heck, I don't think most of them even remember the 04 run to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I gotta live in the memories. I love memories.
How did you feel with the Lindholm trade?
You know what? Actually, I'm very happy with the Lindholm trade. A lot of great pieces coming back to the Flames, and excited to see what they're going to do with it. Lindholm was an unrestricted free agent coming out, so I'm happy with it. Now we'll see what happens with Hanifin and Tanev.
I can't argue with you, unfortunately, because as someone who can't stand the Flames, I hate to see them make a good trade, and I think they did. Now, coming up on our program today, we're going to talk about the U16 AA Northstars Challenge we got to broadcast over the weekend. It's a big time of the year in Junior B as the schedule's getting close to wrapping up in the Heritage Junior Hockey League and other Junior B leagues, a push towards the playoffs, and eventually the provincials in Alberta that we get to broadcast on HNLive. We'll talk to Wendell Mason, who's the head coach of the Rocky Rams. We'll get into all of that. But first, this program is brought to you by Adrenaline, source for sports. Calgary's premier store for hockey, lacrosse, and team apparel, recently renovated and bigger and better than ever. A one-stop shop for all your sporting goods needs. Visit them online at adrenalinegroup.ca. We fit your game. As for the North Stars Challenge, this was our first opportunity, Chris, to be able to broadcast from this event. And some of the best teams in U16 AA in Alberta, 6 of them coming in to the Sportsplex in Calgary. And, a great example. Sometimes players and whomever, that observers think if you don't get to AAA at a certain point, then, the door is starting to shut. But we saw some wonderful talent on display from those 6 teams. I saw a Western Hockey League scout in the building during the tournament. I know there was a couple of scouts from other junior leagues as well, and some exceptional talent that was playing in those games. For whatever reason, not everybody's going to make it to AAA, but there are certainly some players in that mix who are going to have an opportunity going forward that got a chance to showcase themselves in this event.
Yeah, and you're seeing more and more, especially as players getting to pro that aren't drafted into major junior. They aren't drafted in the NHL, but they're taking the long road, but still getting there. So a lot of these, U16, the double A's and single A's, they're diamonds in the rough, as I like to call it. And you know what? Underdog stories. And as media members, who doesn't like an underdog story, right?
No doubt about it. And we got a chance to catch up with some of those guys on day 1 of the tournament. Chris and I both had a chance to chat with some of them about their experiences in those games and just about who they are as players. Here's some of those conversations. What do you as a team and you as an individual want to show people that are watching you guys here this weekend?
As a team, we'd like to show people how fast we are. We're a very fast team. We could be the fastest team in Alberta.
Yourself, you're leading the team in scoring this year. What's going well for you right now? What are some strides you're making in your game?
Well, I'm playing with a really good line mates. We got lots of chemistry going. And our line's bringing a lot of speed to the table, and our power play's working this week.
Corbin, just talk about what the game was for you guys today.
First period was a little rough, but we bounced back in the third for sure. Thought we were going to come back, but we ended up losing. But boys played great. Boys are buzzing. Definitely not a bad game for sure.
What do you guys have to do moving forward the rest of this tournament?
We got to get more energy on the bench for sure, and hopefully get a couple by the goalie, score a couple goals.
Big 6-4 win for your team. Talk about the resiliency. You guys were down 3-1 after 1, came back in the second period.
Yeah, we just always got to keep up the pressure. You just don't stop. The team played really good. We just bounced back and buried a couple and then just started just sparked the comeback.
You know, it's always a lot of fun, Chris, when we get to talk to players who, you know, for some of them, it's going to be their first ever interviews they've done. And there's moments of nerves and excitement. And you see the parents behind us with the phones out, taping them and asking where they're going to air. So it's an enjoyable experience to, you know, make them go through that for the first time.
Do you think the kids are more nervous about being on the camera talking to us, or the fact that all the parents are behind the camera filming as well?
I think probably more the parents, or there's a couple of them that, you know, some were excited and some were looking over at their parents like, come on, mom, geez. But no, it was great. And, you know, I think one of the things we like to do when we go to events like this is for these talented young players who don't always get the same focus or haven't yet got that kind of focus to get the opportunity to get the cameras and the spotlight pointed at them. And the spotlight was pointed at Beaumont and Airdrie on Saturday in what was one of the best games of the tournament, a game where Beaumont got down 1-0, 2-1, 4-2. Then late in the third period, 5-4 Airdrie leading, and Beaumont came up with 3 straight goals, including an empty netter, to win that game 7-5. That one was one of the games of the tournament. And I know you weren't there for that particular game, Chris, but you know, seeing the highlights and the comments Riley made, I mean, one of those games where, you know, just any particular game at any time can capture your imagination, and that one sure did.
Riley said that was one of the best games he's ever broadcast, and he's done a ton of games, hockey and other sports as well, so that's really saying something. Yeah,
he had a great weekend. He did a great job on the mic for us. And then the semifinal, we had the best game of the semifinal was certainly SSAC in the semifinal battle, also with Airdrie. So Airdrie got into it. They had a lot of drama they had to go through over the weekend, and that game with SSAC was an absolute back and forth war that ended up in the shootout, and SSAC eventually pulling it out. And I know you said you were watching that one as well, and one of those games where the momentum swings were massive. You know, SSAC had a lead early in the second period. Airdrie scores 3 in a row. Then SSAC comes back and scores 3 in a row. Then it's tied. Then it's shootout. It looks like one team's going to have the edge. I mean, just one of those games where at any time it could have gone to one side or the other.
And it was a close game and very well played semifinal by both teams. And I know Airdrie was disappointed being on the wrong end of probably the 2 best games of the weekend, but man, oh man, they have themselves an excellent tournament. And, you know, they got what those kids have to take out of it is they got to be a part of the 2 best games of the tournament. Yeah, they were on the losing end of both of them, but they were still part of it.
And I have to wonder too, you know, when you go through games like that, how much does it leave you with at the end? And unfortunately for SSAC, when they did get to the championship, you know, they didn't have much left. Meanwhile, the Calgary Northstars in the other semifinal, maybe one of their tougher games of the event, as they battled a Pack to a 5-3 win, and a Pack team that they'd gone to double overtime with and eventually beaten in a tournament in Edmonton in the semifinal of that tournament. And it was a Pack team that was fired up to try and rebound from a 9-3 loss against Calgary in the round robin. So they certainly gave Calgary more of a test in that game. But the bigger story for the host Northstars, Chris, was just they went all throughout the tournament, won every game, you know, scored over 5 goals every one of those games, and got to celebrate on home ice. I mean, it couldn't have gone much better for the Northstars. And it's not like they picked some scrubs they played against, some of the best teams in, you know, U16 AA in Alberta, and they just dominated their way through the tournament.
They did. It didn't look like it was going to start that way. They were down 3-1 in their first game, and then whatever happened, a switch clicked for them in the between the first and second period. They came out, outscored with a 5-1, had a 6-4 lead, and really never looked back. And as you said, they were tested a little bit in the semifinal, but not. I don't know if the score might be a little bit closer than what the game was. Like the Northstars pretty much from that second period of their first game all the way to the final just dominated, controlled the play, controlled the tournament really.
But I know in talking to their coaching staff that one of the lessons they'll take out of it is, you know, hey guys, if you want to have success, and they have a very tough league that they play in, if you want to have success in the playoffs, this is the recipe. This is the way you have to play to have success. And they put it all together in their home tournament, and they got to do it with the spotlight of the HNLive cameras on them. And I know talking to one of the family members involved, they went home afterwards on Sunday and sat down for dinner and watched the game on the home TV and enjoyed that experience. Good memory, but that's a valuable memory that they can take with them to the playoff drive in their league, because it's a recipe for what their success could be moving forward.
So yeah, teams use tournaments like this as a jumping off point and really can jumpstart their season. Yeah, it's a little bit later for a tournament like this to say it's a jumping off point, but it can be. You've got the end of your regular season coming up. You've got provincials coming up as well. If you can use success from a tournament like this and move it forward into provincials.
There was a couple of players that stood out among many this weekend, and one I think of is Charlie Leclerc from SSAC. How often you see players score hat tricks in back-to-back games, and did it in style. Penalty shot goals, empty net goals, breakaway goals, snipes into the top of the net. It was a real display. It was a Charlie Leclerc show, and I know his teammates got a kick out of that, sharing some of those clips on Instagram. He had a great event. Lucas Way from Beaumont was terrific. Very shifty, skilled player, quick hands, quick feet. Scored a hat trick in a game as well in that big come from behind effort against Airdrie. I'm just naming a couple guys, but I could go through a list of 6, 7, 8, 9 players who really stood out. Ate those opponents up like a squeak toy, eh?
Exactly.
Now we've got a HNL action all throughout last weekend. It's getting closer towards the end of the regular season in the Heritage Junior Hockey League, and we covered Junior B in Alberta extensively, in particular the HJHL, and I know that's a league that you're very close with, Chris. Take us through the state of things here this weekend and leading into the end of the regular season. Where are things at? What are the storylines that we have to keep our eye on?
Well, the storylines you got to keep your eye on is positioning. A lot of positioning still to be happening. Coaldale had a big win last week against Medicine Hat to virtually tie them in the standings. Medicine Hat does have a couple of games in hand on Coaldale, but huge win for Coaldale also gives them a little bit of distance between themselves and Cochrane to keep out of that 4-5 play-in series, that best of 3 where anything can happen in a very short series like that. So you want to stay out of that, and we're going to hear from Wendell Mason about how you want to stay out of that 4-5 play-in series because it's so short. All it takes is a couple of little upsets, and Coaldale, they're staying out of that. Rocky's going to try and stay out of it, but they've got Three Hills nipping at their heels right now. The battle for that last playoff spot in the South Division is the other one to keep an eye on in Strathmore and High River. And High River, who had an absolutely horrible home game against Strathmore a couple weeks ago, last week got some revenge, got the win in Strathmore to stay close and stay within striking distance. Time the enemy for High River, though, is they've got to find a way to close the gap on Strathmore, who has a little bit of an easier schedule. Couple of games against North Division opponents, whereas High River, they're going to go through Coaldale and Medicine Hat twice each, so they're going to be in tough.
Well, and that division all throughout this season has been exceptional. I mean, the strength of the South Division this year, and we've been noting it all throughout the year, and I feel sorry. I mean, I don't want to say sorry, but certainly some sympathy for the teams at the bottom of the standings in that South Division, because they would be playoff teams normally elsewhere, but they've just run up against a division that's been so powerful this year that even finishing in 5th is such a tall task.
It is. It's a huge task to try and overcome, and that has been the whole way all season long for that South Division. The bottom of the standings is, we've got, you look at the North, and North is almost set playoff-wise and has been set playoff-wise for most of the year. The top 2 seeds, of course, Okotoks and Sylvan Lake, they've got those all locked up. So they're just those ones, yeah, you don't necessarily have to keep an eye on them, but those will be the teams to watch for come playoff time.
Joining us now is Wendell Mason, the head coach of the Rocky Rams, who we cover on our Heritage Junior Hockey League schedule on HNLive. They're sitting in 3rd place right now in the Northern Division, coming off a big dominant victory over the Red Deer Vipers. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
How big was that game for you guys against Red Deer? I know bouncing back from a loss against them the previous weekend in real decisive fashion.
I think it was huge for us. We just need to get some confidence back. We felt that probably 2 of the last 3 going into that game, we deserved a better fate than what we got, and just some bad puck luck and hot goalie kind of slowed us down, and yeah, it was good. We needed it.
Wendell, talk about the previous game against Mountain View. Key game for you guys in that battle for second place. Didn't go your way, but I mean, the competitive level between you guys and Mountain View is, there's very little to pick from between the two teams.
Yeah, I think, we probably, once again, that was one of the games we thought we deserved a better fate. A couple ones, maybe our tender wanted back, one late. And I thought, for 80 to 95% of the game, we dictated the play. So it was good. We just capitalized on our opportunities, and they capitalized on theirs before we did.
As you look at what remains of the schedule in the regular season and the battle for playoff positioning, what's your mentality and where you guys are at and what you want to accomplish before the final puck is dropped in the regular season this year?
I think it's just gearing up for playoffs. We got to be prepared to go every night. And obviously, it's a long series, whether it's a best of 5 or whether it's a best of 7, depending on which round you're in. You need all those games at any given point. Like I said, you can run into a hot goalie, hard-hitting playoff hockey, and it's a grind. So just gearing everybody up, make sure that we're playoff focused as we turn the corner here.
And standings wise, you guys are still in that battle with Mountain View for second, but also you got to kind of keep your eye on Three Hills trying to track you guys down for that third spot and stay out of that play-in series, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think we got maybe a little complacent early. We obviously held second for a long time, and I always like to be more the underdog role, come from the bottom and work our way into where we want to be, as opposed to maintaining that spot. But yeah, Three Hills is really pushing. We got a big game with them coming up here on Friday, so yeah, it's they all count now.
It's been a great season for a number of players on your roster. In particular, when you look at the stats, and from the games that I've got a chance to call, Reed Christensen and Jake Smith are having wonderful seasons, both above the 25 goal mark, and both over 50 points this season. Just talk about the year those two have had and the difference they've made for you, and how much they've impacted your offense.
Obviously they're huge. They're big contributors, not only on the ice but in the dressing room. Guys gravitate towards those guys. They see them having success, and they drag the other guys into the fight. So, watch them guys have the individual success is great. I know they're both big team first kind of guys, but the individual success, I think Reed's got 63 points in 32 games here right now, and Smitty, I think, is tied for second with 52. So yeah, both those guys are huge, and a lot of it at 5-on-5. Not they've obviously scored on the man advantage, but yeah, a ton of 5-on-5 presence. They really dictate the play. So it's great for us. At times we've split them up, just teams key in on these are the two hot guys in the league, and they want to put their best shutdown guy there. So we just gotta be a little smarter and be a little creative from time to time.
When you talk about shutdown, and got to look at the back end, especially come playoff times, the defensive core and the offense coming back to help out the defense and the goaltenders as well. And how key is that to kind of get that presence going, heading towards the playoffs?
It's huge. We really keyed in it on the last couple weekends here. We put 3 guys together, going to be a big shutdown group for us coming in, taking the top, their top guys night in, night out. And they know that's their job. If they can provide some secondary scoring, great. But their primary focus is going to be shutting those guys down. Really happy with our D core. Obviously, got a couple guys that are producing offensively from the back end as well, so that always helps. But yeah, it's all hands on deck when it comes to playoff defense.
Of course, you care about the results on the ice, and you care about developing players and the way they play the game. But realistically, a huge part of the junior hockey experience is about developing young men and about the impact that you can make on your community. And you guys have really focused on that in a big way this year with a couple of very important initiatives. In particular, I think about the anti-bullying campaign and the support of the Haskell family. And can you speak about that and how important that was, what the reaction of your dressing room was for that, and the impact you feel like you're able to make that way and that it makes on your boys?
For sure. At the end of the day, the individual accomplishments on the ice and the team accomplishments are always one thing, but it's really about creating men, creating a good culture that we've always stressed that from day one. Create that culture that everybody gravitates to. And with the anti-bullying campaign, it was just something we kind of read about, seen, and we started, keying in on it. Hey, these are some things that we can do, raise some awareness. So yeah, it went over huge. Great support by the community. Other teams in the league, I know Airdrie jumped on board with the Stop Bullying as well. We finally got our, we were waiting a little bit longer than we wanted to with our Hockey Fights Cancer. So we do that annually. The boys had their jerseys on last weekend, raised some money for that as well. And then we also have a First Responders Night coming up this Friday against Three Hills as well. So yeah, it's, as much as, we talk about the individual accomplishments and the team accomplishments, it's always better to be that good role model in the community, lead by example, and set these guys up for success. And some of the greatest memories and achievements is the stuff after hockey, not just what's on the ice. So,
well, we appreciate that and really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. And there's some big games coming up. We look forward to covering and look forward to what should be a very exciting playoff run for you guys. Thanks for all you've done in the community and for having us in the rink with you. And again, for taking the time to chat with us today here, Wendell.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys, for having us out. Great job once again this year.
Kudos to Wendell and the Rocky Rams for those wonderful initiatives in their community and what they did for that family and the messages they're sending out. It's just great. And I know with a full slate of Heritage Junior Hockey League games this weekend on HNLive, there's a couple of Rocky Rams games as well, Chris.
Yeah, and a couple of big ones for them. Rams are hosting Three Hills on Friday night in a battle to stay out of that 4-5 play-in series. And then they've got the Ponoka Stampeders on Saturdays, the North Division game of the week this weekend.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, just around the corner, about 10 days away from the U17 Canadian Crown Challenge, and those tournaments put on by the NAX folks at the River Cree Twin Rinks are always a blast. Some of the best teams in their age group. The U17 tournament getting started shortly. We're looking forward to covering that. And we're always keeping our eye towards Hockey Canada events, including the TELUS Cup and ESSO Cup late in April, two of the most fun weeks of the year, and we're looking forward to partnering up with Hockey Canada to bring you those tournaments. And I know, Chris, just this week, it's a big week in the lacrosse world, too.
Yeah, the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League had their Junior A draft yesterday, and looking forward to seeing all the players with their respective teams this coming summer.
Now time for our top plays of the week. Brought to you by Adrenaline Source for Sports, Calgary's premier store for hockey, lacrosse, and team apparel. Recently renovated and bigger and better than ever. A one-stop shop for all your sporting good needs. Visit us online at adrenalinegroup.ca. We fit your game. And for me, among many plays we got to see at the U16 AA Northstars Challenge was a beautiful goal by Matthew Cunliffe from the Sherwood Park Senators, who showed terrific hands, looking like he was going to the backhand and in very little room, curling it back and tucking it in on the forehand. Great hands from Cunliffe, and was also one of our player spotlights you can check out on Instagram.
And for me, play of the week for me, I love goaltending. I love goaltenders make some amazing saves, and saw one on Friday night against Coaldale between Coaldale and Okotoks as Caden Fulton got turned around like a pretzel, but still made a huge save to keep Coaldale within striking distance against the Bisons.
And as we wrap up, I do want to mention, coming up soon, we may have some exciting news that could involve some pro wrestling. And with that banner behind you there, Chris, I might just put you in a headlock or powerbomb you and maybe tap you out with a sharpshooter. But watch HNLive in the coming weeks. We might have some good and interesting news in the pro wrestling world. But for Chris Colwell, I'm Sean Mullen. Thanks for joining us in episode 3 of HNLive today.